Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am creating this customer analysis report that has this interesting feature, that this rollover feature. And when you roll over a particular customer, the data in the charts and the analysis to the bottom left of the screen updates with the customer's information. So let's get started. I start by creating the header section by selecting the cells at the top and coloring those out in orange with orange fill color, and of course putting in the title. And then I'm creating this dashboard to be able to showcase the data of 15 key customers in one view. So I have designated 15 columns, and I've labeled them from customer 1 to customer 15. Also putting the subtitles or sub labels of the year-to-date total, and I'm using the Webdings font to bring in that downward arrow. It's actually number 6 in. It's really, you just type in the number 6 and then you change the font to Webdings and it converts into that downward facing arrow. I'm deleting the excess columns because I need this dashboard to fit into one view. And I've moved over to a new sheet, the data sheet, where I'm putting in my dummy data that I'm going to use to prepare this dashboard. And the dummy data has the customer sales record for this 12 months in the year. And we have that for customers 1 through to customers 15, essentially 15 columns, including the date columns. That brings it to 16 columns. That has been set up. And what I'm going to spend time doing now is, this is a very fast and very easy to set up dashboard. After you set up your front end, which is what I just did, the column headers, and then the columns for each customer from customer 1 to customer 15. In the back end, all you need to do is add this calculated column. That is column T, where you're going to have a dedicated column. The chart that we see in the main view is reading from that dedicated column, and that column has a dynamic formula in there that change when a new customer is selected. And I have set up that VLOOKUP formula. Off camera, I moved the dynamic table, the one in columns S and T, to the front end, as that was going to make it easy for the rollover functionality, which is driven by a combination of a hyperlink, Excel function, and a user-defined function. So I moved that table to the front end, but it's off camera. And I've gone over there to come back to the front end to put in the year-to-date total, which is essentially a sum of all the sales records for all the months in the year per customer. And now I've generated the charts from that newly created table that it's running on dynamic formulas. I tweaked the chart style a bit using one of the preset styles in Microsoft Excel. I like this cool dark background with orange highlight or orange watercolor. I think it looks cool. And now I'm going to move over to get the magic set up. It looks like, and I'm using conditional formatting, a conditional formatting rule to detect the customer that has been selected and then change the background cell color for the whole column for that customer to orange, and orange with white text. And that's the conditional formatting rule I set up. And finally, I'm setting up the insights or summary section area of the dashboard that just shows for whatever customer is currently in focus, shows the average monthly transaction count, highest transaction count, the month of the highest transaction, and the month of the lowest transaction. And I'm putting in the template for that. And I'm going to go over to the back end and use that selected dynamic, essentially that dynamic table from which the chart is running from, to compute whatever the average is, the average data for that selected customer is the highest month, which is essentially the max formula, and the month with the lowest transaction, which is the mean formula. And I'm also going to use the I compute that for all the customers in range, so that when a customer is selected from and is in focus in the table, it just uses HLOOKUP to detect the average highest lowest data for that selected customer and the highest and lowest month, and then I'm going to refer to the data that it returns in the front end. So I have computed it for all the customers in view, and I prefer to set it up this way so that I can easily, at least while I'm setting it up, it allows me to do my sanity checks, and I can check what's happening in the front end and be sure that it's actually computing the right data for the customer that is selected in the front end. And now I'm going to go into these different cells and just turn that text, average monthly transaction, average highest transaction and lowest transaction, turn those texts into formula by adding the equal sign in front of them, quoting the text in there, turning those texts into text string, and then bringing in the reference of the returned data. And I wrap that referred to data with a text formula. And in that text formula, I'm able to control the formatting that the data is returned in. If I don't wrap it in the text formula, it can choose to render the date that is being returned as a regular number, which is what Excel does a lot. So I have to control the output, and I control it using the text formula. I use the text formula, and the syntax is text, open brackets, the reference, comma, and the format as I want it in quotes. And I'm doing that on the screen. And then once I'm done with that, I just add a few other formatting details, change the highest transaction section to green, lowest transaction to red. And yes, my dashboard is all set up. So I lost the footage of the original, and I have reopened the dashboard so I can show you what exactly is happening. You would notice the formula if error hyperlink highlight C7, 6, You already know what the 6 is doing there, because the 6 is essentially the downward arrow, and the text over in there is webdings. So webdings, as in number 6, is this downward arrow. So that's what the 6 means. Highlight C7 is actually a function that I set up in the VBA editor. This function sits in a module, and what it is this simple 3-line macro that says public function highlight series name, and every time this function is called up, it changes what the series name is, which is the content of cell C7, customer 1. It changes it to what is in this named range, cell option. And cell option is that cell that we designated in the sheet as what is changing the records in the charts. Recall that this dynamic table is what is driving this chart. And when you move to each cell, so it calls up. So when I hover over this, it changes this cell option, and then this is also reading from cell option. And as I step into each one of them, you can see C7, D7, E7 all the way. So every time I hover over it, it changes cell option, which is this cell, to the name of the customer, and it brings because this formula is a VLOOKUP on this customer, so it brings this customer's records from the source data, and it also changes this record. This record, well, it's not connected to the macro, it's just a formula that reads whatever is in cell option, which is this cell at the time. So that's what is driving the interactivity or rollover function in this dashboard. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care and bye-bye.